Okay, now it's time to talk about a very important subject, which is job output and how to look at it. Because when you run a batch job on the mainframe, it doesn't do anything other than tell you that it completed successfully or not. All right, so I'm going to show you just run quick example, and I'm going to show you how you look at jobs, and this is very important. All mainframes have to have this ability. All right, so we'll just take this job for an example. All right, sort sum and do this to x, 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 x. All right, all right. This is your job name. This is important, but you'll get to see it later. And then you'll see something else when I submit. So I'm going to submit this. Now, look at what it said. It says job Z10954SM, which is what I have up here. And then it gives me a job number, job 04403. All right. Now, because I have put this notify equal on me, when it finishes, it should tell me. And it does. And it says max CC equals 0, which means, okay, it finished successfully. But now, well, how do I know what happened? Where can I get some information about this job running? You have to go to off the main menu in this version of ISPF, it's SD for sdsf. Some places it may be just S. Some places may have a different even a different software to look at it, but SD. So here are basically the only four that you're going to use. DA for display active, meaning like a job is running. I for input, meaning the job is on the input queue but has not started running. O for output, meaning it's finished and on the output queue. H for held, and it's on the held output queue. All right. Depending on your message class, whether it goes to O or whether it goes to H. But if you don't find it on H, go to O. So just for kicks, I'm going to say H, and it's going to say, oh, I don't have any jobs. Let's see if O has any. And here is my job, here's my name, and here is my job number. So I know that this is my job. Now, what you want to do, you can either put an S here, which is select, and you can treat this like one big long view, but what you really want to do is put a question mark. All right, now, these three, the Jez message log, the Jez sys message, the Jez JCL, they will always be there. All right, always be there. This top one will give you the condition code. There was only one step and it finished with a 0. Right? It gives me the date and the time and the user ID. All right, but the important part is it says that it finished successfully. Right? This, the Jez JCL, is going to be the JCL that actually ran. Now, If you are doing substitution, right, if it's for like a proc or something, it would show the proc too. But if you're doing substitute, it will show you what the name worked out to be. All right, so if I had substituting, I can see it here. And if it isn't, what you think it is, say, well, why don't I have this file? Well, look in the JCL, and it may have been named to something different. All right. Also notice that it has these numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are kind of what you call the cards. This is a job card, and each or statement. And the thing is, if you get a JCL error, it will give you a statement, like it will say invalid allocation unit on statement 4. The allocation is this track, so maybe you put TRKS, right, and it doesn't like TRKS, it wants TRK. It will say, okay, line 4, you have a JCL error. All right. Also, notice these. I always put these on really every step. Sysout, sysudump, and sysprint. All right. Every step. And the sysout equals star means write it to the job output. All right, so I'm going to be able to see it in this JCL. Very important, right? This is the JCL that actually ran, not the JCL that you think ran, although hopefully they will be the same. The JES message. Now, here we go. Allocated to DD name, right? I have two DDs, sort in and sort out, right? It says this is what my sort out data set is. Manage class. Here is my condition code, which I really could have gotten in the first one anyway, but it finished with 0. Now, we have the short example. If I had something like I had 5 steps and the first 4 ran and then the last one got a JCL error, here's what you do. You go up to the top, so you're at the top, and then you go to the bottom, right? And then you start looking for errors. The file not found, invalid, whatever, right? And if it's not there, you go up with PF7. And you'll keep going up until you see the error message. So again, you have an error. Really don't start at the top of this. Start at the bottom and go up. All right. Now, next thing. After those 3, you get the messages from the job step. So the step was simple sort. And now this is sysout. So what is sysout? Well, when I did this, right? This is my step name. And sysout is this. And I said write it to the job log, to the log output, right? Notice I didn't get anything from sysudump. I didn't get anything from sysprint because nothing was written to them. The system handles it and it messages went to sysout. And since I said sysout equals star, it goes to the job log. All right. So here is my job log, and this is for a sort. So the interesting part is sort of at the bottom. So insert 0, delete 6. Oh, that doesn't look right. In 9, out 3. Well, I take that back. Now it does make sense because this was a sort sum. So I started with 9 records and I finished with 3. All right. But this is the important part, right? When you write this to like sysout and you do this sysout equals star, this is where it goes. All right. Also, if you are running a COBOL program and you put in displays, here is where you will find them in the sysout. If you don't have the debugger and have to kind of debug it with displays, this is where you're going to see your information. And again, the key thing is this is the step, simple sort, and this is the DD name, sysout. All right? So this is how you read it. Just a JCL thing. So I'll show you. What happens if instead of writing it out to the job log, because you might say, oh, hey, well, the job log is going to go away, and especially on this, it will. All right, but I want to save that output to a file, right? Just like you can put an input without a file name, and you write generally your sysout without a file name, you can, however, write a file name. So if I wanted to write my sysout to a file, this is what I would do. I would comment out the sysout. I would copy an output to use as an example. I would now make this, instead of the sort out DD, I would make this the sysout DUD, not DUD and and I'm just going to call this, I don't know, sysout dot output. All right. And I think this LRECL will work. All right. So now, instead of doing it to the job log, I'm writing this to a file. So let me just try and run this again. Get rid of my file that I know is out there. Again, the big difference is this time, instead of writing my sysout to DD sysout equals star, I'm actually writing my sysout to a file. So let's just take a look at that. Only thing that might be off would be the LRECL, but LRECL's fine. So now, just to show, let's see what is in that file. And you'll notice that it has everything that I used to get in my sysout from the job, right? It'll end up with the same thing and with my in9 out equals 3, etc. Now, most of the time, you don't really do this, but you can. That's kind of the point. And now, again, just to show you, if I look at the job output from this job, I am not going to see a sysout at equal sd dot o, right? Because I know it's in the output queue. Notice my total records are less in this one, right? Well, that's because I wrote out a bunch of records to a file as opposed to this sysout, to this job output. I put my question mark here. Look, there is nothing. There's no sysout. There's nothing. That doesn't mean that the job failed necessarily, right? Most of the time, yes, you will have a sysout, a sysprint. You'll have something from the step, right? But it's possible you may not, and that might be okay. Again, the big thing to check is is really this one, because this condition code is, I mean, you can look up the condition code in the third one, but it's going to be the same as here. And, right, notice that it has the step ended, right, the return code 0. And also, you can have many steps in a job and using if then and other different things. Your return code for the job, right, might not be, a 0. You might have had a return code 4 on one step, and that was okay. Using if then, we said, oh, okay, I'll handle that because it's not really an error. It's something that I expect. So you can have different step codes, and the job can finish without all the step codes being 0. So the one you want to look at is right here, is what the job ended in. And this ended in a return code of 0 for the job. All right. Now, why is that important? Okay, here's why. Because there is, on all mainframes, a huge scheduling system that schedules jobs to run automatically, and it has all sorts of things, the dependencies, this follows that, right? Now, it also has rules set up for each job to say, oh, okay, it has to be a 0, or I consider this job blown up or abandoned or not completed successfully. But I could also set the job check or the scheduling job check to say, oh, okay, if you get a job return code of 4 from this job, that's okay. Go ahead with the next job in my chain. All right. So again, for scheduling purposes, you're not really as concerned about a step return code, right, as you are the job return code. Because depending on the job return code, it may or may not trigger off the next job in the schedule, right? Or if it's not a 0, it may go in a certain queue and they may call you as on call and they say, hey, this job got a return code equal 4, and according to RACF and my scheduling thing, a 4 is an invalid return code. Can you look at it? Right? But then again, they could have it set up to who knows. They say, okay, well, 8 may be a valid return code, which means even though this job finished with return code 8, according to my scheduling rules, they say that's okay. And the next job can start. So, got to remember difference between step return codes and the job return code, because the scheduling system will look at the job return code. All right. So your mainframe will have something like this. It'll have something like sdsf, an ability to look up a job and look up its output. And again, if you know the job name, right, and the job number, I am sure that this is my job. I do not put an S, even though I could, because that would treat it as one big file. Really, I want to put a question mark, which is going to break it up into these. I will always have these three at the top, right? With which I can check the return code, or for the JCL error, I could check where the JCL error is, which is going to be in this sys message, the third one, right? Then you may have one or more or none, right? Output from each step, and it will go in order. So if this were step one, your sys out from step two will be after the sys out from step one. All right? And it's much easier to just say, oh, I want to see what the sys out from step one. I don't want to have to search through all these lines. I know if I put the question mark, I can just do this, put S, hit enter, and find all my stuff. All right? So generally, to put displays and stuff in, you always do these three. Well, this is not. Okay, where are we? Oh, I wrote on. And again, these do the sys out. dd equals star. So these three, sys out, sys udump, and sys print. Even if they're not used, it's okay. Put them in anyway, just like that. And the only other thing that we can show is that looking up job, right? Job output does not necessarily have to go to the job log. If for some reason I wanted to, I could write out that output to a file which I could save and view later. So this is an overview of how you look at job data, and it is pretty standard across all mainframes. All right, and this is the relationship between the JCL and the job. When you submit it, get the job name and job number. You can find the job name and the job number in here. That's the one you want. Put a question mark, hit enter, and then look through the appropriate section. So, very important to learn that. I'll see you at the next lesson. Thanks. Bye.